Hey there, Willowbrook, and thanks so much for doing our daily Devo. Today we are in Acts chapter 25. When I'm reading through Acts 25, I thought about a really popular tweet that was retweeted lots and lots of time in the year 2012. So we're taking it back a little bit, and here's what it said. God is always up to 10,000 things. Maybe you're aware of 3 of them. Think about that for a second. God is always up to 10,000 things, but maybe you're only aware of 3 of them. The reality is that God is moving. God is doing things, but we can't always see them with our earthly perspective. And that's what I thought about when I got to Acts chapter 25, because we find the Apostle Paul, inarguably one of the most effective messengers of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Through him, God is growing his church. Through Paul, the message of the gospel is being shared and people are coming to salvation. But now he's on trial. He's on trial not because he's broken the law, but because there's people who really don't like him. There's people who really don't like the message. And so it would appear with the naked eye that this is not good for the gospel. And in fact, he's been on trial and verdicts have been postponed, and now he's making appeals to Caesar, and the whole thing looks grim. It does not look good for the ongoing spread of the gospel. But what we know is true is that God is always up to so much more than our eyes can see. Because as followers of Jesus, we walk by faith and not by sight. But too many times we forget. We forget what we have access to as followers of Jesus. And when things get hard, when we find a trial in our own life, whether it's something difficult we're walking through or whether we're actually on trial for something, we don't live like people who have a God who knows all things and is capable, and not just capable, but active in doing things, putting into motion everything that will bring glory to his name and good for his people. And so what happens for us oftentimes is we look at things through a fleshly eyes, and we forget that God is up to something. If we're walking with him, we may sense that God is up to something in us, but sometimes we can forget that God is definitely up to something in other people as well. Actually, Romans 8:28, it says this, it says, we know that all things work together for the good of those who love God and those who are called according to his purpose. But did you know that in verse 29, it actually says the idea of God's good purpose, do you know what it is? Is that we would be conformed to the image of his Son. The image of Jesus. Do you think that Jesus would be wringing his hands? Do you think that Jesus would be bulldozing through? Or do you think that Jesus was relaxed? Jesus had hard things. We know it. The cross. He took on the full weight of all of our sin. The resistance that he experienced was real. But Jesus functioned as if he belonged to a God who was doing 10,000 things. And even in his humanity, maybe he couldn't see all of them, but in his full divinity, he could trust in them. What's going on in your life right now? Could you be described as relaxed? Not relaxed because everything looks good, but relaxed because you are a follower of Jesus who walks by faith and not by sight. You trust in a God who is doing things that you can't even see, and you know that he is a God who is working everything for good. For those who are called according to his purpose, and his purpose is glorifying his name and conforming you to the image of your son. Is that hard for you? Or is that something that brings you great peace? God's not done with you. He's doing a work in you. He was doing a work to continue to spread the gospel, to transform the heart of Paul in Acts 25. He's still in that business. He's doing that for you as well. Oh, Willowbrook, I pray that today that you'd surrender to that you'd ask God to give you eyes to see things you don't see. And then I pray that you'll have a happy Wednesday.